Being a CEO means being a collaborator and a nurturer.
Don't you have to be at work?
Everyone is just waiting for me to buckle under the pressure.
Is now a good time to introduce the interns?
Yeah. Hey, how'd you get that dog to calm down?
I gave it a cookie.
You always have cookies on you.
Why, do you want one?
You have 7 minutes.
So, how did it start?
I see myself as a...
Power-hungry personality?
You think that's what I am?
I think you like to be told what to do. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
Your behavior is unacceptable.
Is it?
Nicole Kidman plays a powerful CEO with deep, dark desires that lures her into an inappropriate relationship with her intern in the new holiday classic, Babygirl. Bryan.
Yes.
This movie, on the surface, looks like a more mature version of 50 Shades of Grey. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Oh, I didn't think about that. I don't know. I didn't see it that way. I don't know if that's
I think it is. I think it is fair to say. Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen those 50 Shades movies.
Well,
so.
you are missing out, my friend.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
So, then what is this if it's not an updated 50 Shades of Grey?
You know what? I've been trying to figure that out because watching this trailer, you would think that this is kind of like one of those new erotic thrillers that's kind of trying to harken back to some of those erotic thrillers that we had from the 90s, you know, movies like Disclosure or Basic Instinct or something like that.
It's definitely not those.
But it's not that.
No. I think calling it a thriller.
And that's the thing. It's not really a thriller in that sense. But the thing about this movie is like, you expect it to kind of be erotic and tantalizing and things like that, but this movie is extremely cringe. It's extremely cringe.
No? You weren't turned on by it, Bryan?
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't know. I think that there is eroticism in this movie. I think Nicole Kidman is one of the most watchable actors on the planet.
Yeah.
And she is delivering a performance that I think you have to call courageous.
Extremely so. And very vulnerable.
Yes. And I think the perspective on this movie is certainly not the male gaze, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
I felt like once the affair began with Harris Dickinson, it kind of fell into a montage that did not propel news story for me. Like we rush up to it, like, you know, he thinks he's unlocked some desire in her. Yeah. We get references to a childhood and a history that seems very dark and upsetting, but we never really investigated beyond that.
Yeah, and that's what makes me think, like, what they do reveal about her past, is that even the truth? Like, she mentions it a little bit, but I'm like...
They talk about it so little, I feel like it has to be true.
I'm like, is this like an unreliable narrator type of thing? Like, is this something that we can believe? Is she just making this up? But the one thing that I kind of, I don't want to say if I liked or not, but you could tell that she's unfulfilled in her marriage with Antonio Banderas, and there's more that she seeks in her relationship, into the intimacy in her relationship that she seeks more that she's not getting. And like you say, it seems like when she runs into Harris Dickinson's character, that he unlocks something that she's been craving, that she's been missing in her marriage.
You learn very quickly that the sexual desires that her character has are not mainstream sexual desires, and therefore are embarrassing to discuss, and she cannot find a way to discuss with it to Antonio Banderas. And it would have been so easy of this movie to have made Antonio Banderas an unloving, uncaring husband, and he's not that. He loves his wife, but there's that block between them that she cannot reveal. She doesn't feel like she can reveal what she actually desires. And so she just does what he likes.
But the thing is, I find that the most compelling thing about the story. And I thought that maybe they would have focused more on that relationship with Antonio Banderas.
Yes.
Because Antonio Banderas, he has one great scene, but he doesn't have a lot to do.
Yeah,
in
I
this
mean,
movie.
he's like in the beginning, and then he's really in at the end, and that's a cameo here and there in the middle.
Yeah.
I feel like the sexual escapades between Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson's character go on a little too long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And get in the way of what this story ultimately wants to talk about. And what that film wants to talk about is what I've already discussed.
Yeah.
And I think the conclusions it reaches in the end are fascinating. I just kind of wish we got there earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. Because it does feel like the movie is kind of spinning its wheels. Because once we get into the relationship with Harris Dickinson, it does feel a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
And it just feels like I go back to like what I was saying about it feeling cringe, because like Nicole Kidman, like she's a CEO of like factories that have all these automation systems, and there's these shots, like these God eye views of factories where everything is kind of like neatly placed. But then, like, you juxtapose that with her personal life, that is a mess.
Her personal life, but all her internal life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know, at the start of the relationship between Harris Dickinson and Nicole Kidman, what I also appreciate about this movie is that he doesn't know exactly what he's doing either.
No.
Right?
No.
And he senses that what she wants is kind of this, this baby girl thing, this power dynamic
the power
shift.
dynamic shift, yeah.
And, he's constantly, though, at the start, looking for consent and making sure that they are going on the same path. But then that conversation about consent and his awkwardness with playing in this BDSM world goes away for so long.
But then, like, the thing that frustrates me is because the movie feels like it wants to have a conversation about consent, but then it's almost like that's weaponized because of the environment, this professional environment that they're in. It's almost like he uses that to weaponize that against
Well,
her.
I feel like we don't learn enough about what's actually going on in Harris Dickinson's brain. It's so planted on Nicole Kidman's character that he starts to do things that I question, but the film doesn't really have any time or space
to really go
investigate why he's doing these things.
Why he's doing that. What's your rating for this one?
It's another one that's like on that line.
Yeah.
But again, I think because I enjoy the performances so much, the direction so much, and the conclusion so much, I do tip over to B+.
I think, again, I'm going to go the opposite way. It's just a B-. I mean, I don't know if this is a movie that I'll ever revisit. It just feels way too cringe for me to even watch. It's hard for me to watch people, like, watch their lives just being a mess like it is. And Nicole Kidman, who's given a brave performance, really goes for it. But I'll never see this movie again. So it's a B- for me.
If you liked what you just saw,
Then check us out on YouTube at PGC TV Online, and we'll see you at the movies.